Can you believe it has been 2 years since I bought a Nintendo Switch for my collection? And what a 2 years it has been. I've expanded my game collection to nearly 100 games. So today, 2 years later, we're looking at my complete Switch collection.
Kick us! Video Game World! Rush Trips! Night Game Hunting!
Oh yeah! Hello again folks and welcome back to another episode. And can you believe it? It has been 2 years since I made that video why I bought a Switch in 2021, and it has been 2 years of Switch collecting. I've added nearly 100 games over multiple genres from all around the world into my Switch collection, and it's one of my favourite consoles to collect for. And today we're going to go through every single game and every console, every add-on I have for my Switch collection. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content like this video throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. Now, let's jump into this Switch collection. Of course, there is no better place to start than with the console itself, and this is the Switch I went for, the classic Switch with the grey Joy-Cons. And the thing is, the Switch Lite was out at the point which I bought this console, but I like to have the option to either play this in handheld mode or in docked mode. The thing about the Switch is the versatility of the console. You can play it at home on a 65-inch TV, or you can play it in the back of a car. One of the craziest things about the Nintendo Switch is that for even years after its launch in 2017, it was super hard to actually get your hands on a console. For me, I really wanted to get the one that had the red and blue Joy-Cons, but I had to settle for getting one with grey Joy-Cons because it finally came in stock in Argos. I cannot believe 4 years after the launch of this console, it was still so hard to get a hold of one. It was mere months after I bought my Switch console that my wife decided she wanted a Switch console for herself, and she picked up this one, the Monster Hunter Rise edition. And this is such a beautiful console. Nintendo really know how to do a limited edition console. Just look at the artwork, not just of this box, but on the console itself. This thing is an absolute thing of beauty, and I think down the road I will probably be picking up more of these limited edition Switch consoles. Now, I didn't really need to add any extra Joy-Cons into my collection. I had the two that came with my console, and my wife had the two that came with her console. But when he announced Zelda Skyward Sword and these Joy-Cons, I knew I had to have them. That's the thing, these are absolutely beautiful, and to this day, these are the Joy-Cons I use every day on my Nintendo Switch. Before we jump into the games, let's just talk about the Joy-Cons briefly for a moment, because I know many people have had problems with drift in their Joy-Cons, but for me, touch wood, I've never had any issue with this. But let me know in the comments down below, have your Joy-Cons ever started to drift? Let's get on to the games then, and what better place to start than with the red-hatted plumber, Mario himself. And of course, for years, the only place you could play any Mario games was on the Nintendo Switch. But I do have one problem with the Switch, and this is a problem that only really I have personally, because so many people didn't play the Wii U. And the thing is, there's a lot of games from the Wii U that have just been converted onto the Switch, such as Super Mario Bros. U, the Deluxe Edition. This was a fantastic game back on the Wii U, but I am happy that more people get to play this on the Switch. One of the best things about the Nintendo Switch is the multiplayer, and one of the best multiplayer games, of course, on the Switch is Mario Party. This is absolute carnage. This is a way to find your friends from your enemies. I've spent many nights playing this with friends and family, and it never fails to get the party started. There is not one but two of these Mario Party games on the Switch, and I had to have both of these in the collection. A game I really do enjoy, and the only one of these kind of Mario sports titles I have, is Mario Golf. It may not be the deepest game of all time, it may not be the most complicated game of all time, but it does make golf a little bit more fun. There are so many Mario games on the Switch, but I think this is one that is criminally underrated and a lot of people overlook. It is Paper Mario and the Origami King. I had so much fun with this game. This was one of the first games I completed on the Switch, and it's a cheap game to pick up. And the thing is, you can't say that about many of these first-party Nintendo games, but I would definitely recommend picking this up. The characters are just joyous in this game, the bosses are fun, and just seeing how they've put all of your favourite Mario characters into origami is just a joy to behold. This game right here is one of the main reasons I bought a Switch, and was actually the first game I bought for my Switch before I even owned the console. Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Who knows, will this game be worth a lot of money in the future? If you didn't know, this game is now discontinued. They're not pressing additional copies of this, so the copies that are out there in the world are the only copies that exist. But what a collection. The only thing I would say is, for me, if you're going to play Super Mario 64, do yourself a favour. Play it on the original hardware, the N64 controller, the way it was meant to be played. Finally, in the Mario collection, we have quite possibly not just the greatest Mario Kart game of all time, but possibly the best game on the Switch. Super Mario Kart Deluxe 8. This is absolute perfection. This is such a good multiplayer game, both online and couch-wise. It just epitomises what a Mario Kart game should be. And with the season pass, there is so much content for this game. If you have a Nintendo Switch, you need this in your collection. But of course, Mario is not the only Nintendo franchise on the Switch. We also have Zelda. And it might surprise you, but I am not the biggest fan of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Yes, in theory, this is a remake of a game from the 80s on the NES. And I kind of feel like this game hasn't aged that well. I know it's an absolute classic video game, and this may cause a bit of controversy, but I just don't think in the 2020s this is the best game of all time still. You may roast me down in the comments, but I think there are better Zelda games to spend your time playing. Also, again, I am not the biggest fan of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I don't really know what it is about this game. I am quite a big Zelda fan. Like, Ocarina of Time is easily one of the greatest games of all time. But I just didn't feel that connection with Skyward Sword. So let me know in the comments down below. Am I missing something with this game? It just doesn't seem like the Zelda game I enjoy. But this game, for me, The Legend of Zelda Breath of Wild, is not just one of the greatest games on the Switch. It is one of the greatest games of all time, which I have never completed. This is one of those games I will go back to periodically. I will restart it. I will get 10, 20, 30 hours in, and then I normally just get distracted and pulled away to another game. I do find this with longer games. I have quite the short attention span, but trust me, if you want just one game for your Nintendo Switch, get this one. It is a popular misconception that a Nintendo Switch has to be expensive to collect for. Yes, if you stick to the first-party Nintendo games, it can be quite expensive. But if you step away and go to some of the more obscure games such as No Straight Roads, you can get some really cheap games. This is a game that is commonly under £10 and is a really fun game. It's kind of an action-adventure game with a very musical-heavy twist. If you enjoy kind of games in the musical genres such as Brutal Legend, definitely check this one out, and it's super cheap. I quite often pick up games such as this one that pique my interest if I see them cheap. I'm yet to play this, but Bayonetta World Tour Edition just looks awesome. And the fact you use your Joy-Cons to actually physically drum along makes this one worth the price of picking it up essential. This game is, I think I picked this up for £5, and at the end of the day, for a brand new Switch game, can you really go wrong? This is another game I picked up cheap that I'm yet to play, Rustler. The thing is, this game is a self-described medieval Grand Theft Auto, and I do not mean the 3D Grand Theft Autos we all know and love today. I mean like the original GTAs, the top-down, kind of free-roaming sandbox games, and any kind of game that has pedigree like that, I'm definitely interested in. And again, this one is super, super cheap. This is a game that my wife picked up very cheap from Game. I'm yet to play, but she said it was just a fun game to play through. Not super long, but a very interesting story. A nice one for kind of a rainy Sunday afternoon. I will buy any game from Annapurna Interactive. They just put out banger after banger after banger. And this game, Sayonara Wild Hearts, is just another absolute win from that studio. This game is absolutely beautiful to look at, and it is the perfect game for the Switch, especially on the go. The levels are super short, contained, you can play for 5 minutes or 5 hours. It is the perfect pick up and play casual game for Nintendo Switch, and it is super cheap. I've always been a fan of the side-scrolling shoot 'em up, and this game, Cinemora X, is available on other consoles, but for my money I think it's just perfect for the Switch. Again, this is the perfect game to play for 5 or 10 minutes on the bus or the taxi to work, or just for a little bit of casual play. And again, this one is super cheap. But don't worry, you can also pick up amazing multiplayer games such as Trials Fusion. I think I picked this one up on eBay for under £10, and this is a really good couch co-op game. But be warned, if you have a short fuse, this one is also very infuriating. But if you put the time in and the effort and you get good at this game, it is very rewarding. Moving Out is another game which is available on other consoles, but it is perfect on the Switch. You could set this up when around a friend's house or even down the pub and just enjoy a little bit of co-op multiplayer. It is a really fun game. Just imagine that bit with friends with a pivot, taking that sofa up the stairs, and you are halfway there. It's a fun little puzzle game that once again you can pick up super cheap. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a massive fan of most of the Warhammer games, but this one I picked up, I don't think I would recommend. It was super cheap, but it's not the best game, and especially in handheld mode on a Switch, there is way too much to play on a smaller screen. Even if I think you had the OLED Switch, this is one you have to play in docked mode, but it just didn't grip me. It's a kind of turn-based tactics game, but sadly, it's just not that interesting. The Nintendo Switch has a lot of exclusive games that are only available on the Nintendo Switch. Some of these games have stayed exclusive, while others have gone to other consoles over time, such as Hades. This was such an amazing game, and still is. It was exclusive to the Switch, but now you can play it on multiple consoles, and trust me, you want to play it. This is a game where you will die. You will die, and you will die, and you will die, but you will get better and stronger for it. It is a rogue-esque game in all of the best senses. It has amazing graphics, a fantastic storyline, and I'm kind of happy this is not just on Nintendo Switch, so more people get to check out this amazing game. You saw earlier that my wife picked up the Monster Hunter Rise version of the Nintendo Switch console, but I had to have a physical copy of the game. And this game, for the longest time, until literally this week, was exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. The Monster Hunter series is a weird one. It kind of bounces between the PlayStation, the Nintendo consoles, and now it's on Xbox Games Pass. It's definitely one to check out. It is a game you need to put a lot of hours into, but it's a fantastic game, either by yourself or even better, in co-op online. No More Heroes is a series which is predominantly on the Nintendo consoles, and Travis Strikes Again is definitely easiest to pick up for the Nintendo Switch. It may not be the best game in this series, but it is one you can pick up cheap, but the price of this one really fluctuates, so if you see it cheap, I'd definitely pick it up. If you've never checked out a Rock of Ages game, I would definitely recommend checking them out. They're kind of soft puzzle games, they're kind of easy to pick up but quite difficult to master. Imagine being like inside a real life painting and you are playing as a boulder trying to destroy the other person's castle before they destroy yours. It has a really strange art style, it's not really seen in many games, it's definitely worth checking out. This one is exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. This game is not exclusive to the Switch per se, but I think it is amazing that Doom 2016 is available on the Switch, that you can have all this ripping and all this tearing in a handheld console. But this is a game which again is getting more expensive. If you have the chance, and if you're a fan of first person shooters which are fairly sparse on the Switch, I would definitely recommend picking this one up. This is the Japanese only release of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, and this is a collection of the first, second and third games. This is one of the advantages of the Nintendo Switch. It is a region-free console and you can buy games from any region. And the most exciting thing about this game, this actually has an English translation on the cartridge. This final Switch exclusive is one of the best Marvel games you may not have ever played. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order is absolutely fantastic. And one of the biggest reasons for this is it doesn't follow any of the film canon. It has the X-Men in it, it has the Avengers, it has some really random cameos, and the storyline is absolutely fantastic. Thanos is back and he is mad, and this game is absolutely incredible. In single player or in local co-op, it is an absolutely amazing game. You build your team from tons and tons of your favourite heroes. It is absolutely fantastic. The storyline had me gripped. It is one of the best Marvel storylines I've ever seen, and to be honest, at the moment it puts the current Marvel universe to shame. One of the best things about the Nintendo Switch is its flexibility. You can play it at home in docked mode, or you can take it on the go in handheld mode. And this is one of the reasons I've bought a lot of games for the Switch rather than other consoles. Games such as John Wick Hex, which is kind of a puzzle game set in the John Wick universe. If you step into the boots, or should that be the trigger, of John Wick. It's kind of a soft puzzle game. It's fairly cheap and definitely one to pick out. It has some really nice short levels. It's really good to play on the go. Next up we have Cobra Kai. The Karate Kid saga continues. This is essentially like Streets of Rage, but you either decide to be a part of Miyagi-Do or to be a part of Cobra Kai. I think we know which one we want to be in, really. It's very much Streets of Rage-esque, it's co-op, it's great fun. One of the most iconic games of all time with the greatest soundtrack of all time is the Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 box set. And yes, this is a fantastic way to play these two amazing remasters. Being able to play these on the go is an absolute godsend. Just 2 minutes of pure unadulterated happiness on the go. I still, to this day, cannot believe that CD Projekt Red managed to get The Witcher 3 and all of its expansions squeezed into a Nintendo Switch cartridge. This just shows the Nintendo Switch may not be the most powerful console ever, but you can fit a lot of gameplay into these little tiny carts. The Outer Worlds is another game which may surprise you actually runs on the Nintendo Switch, given the limits of the cartridge size and the console, but this one does come with a bit of a caveat. It does have an internet download required and able to play the game. As a collector, this is a bit worrying in the future, as if you ever delete this off your Switch, will you be able to play this years down the line when the Nintendo Switch online support is ended? Let me know, does this logo on games put you off buying certain games for the Switch? Hollow Knight is a game which I haven't really put a lot of time into on other consoles, but I wanted to pick up for the Nintendo Switch. I just think it's the best way to play a game like this, just one of those games you can pick up and play just for a casual little play or for a longer session. I've really been wanting to replay the Darksiders games recently, so when I saw this game come up for the Nintendo Switch for just £10 in an Amazon flash sale, I had to pick it up. I think these are really underrated action-adventure games. If you don't want to play them on the Switch, they are super cheap on the Xbox 360, but I definitely recommend checking them out. The Wonderful 101 is a game that was exclusive at first to the Wii U, so a lot of people never got the chance to play it. I'm really glad this game got ported to the Nintendo Switch. I'm kind of on the fence of this one. Some days I love it, some days I hate it, but it's definitely one that's worth checking out. If you enjoy your cyberpunk inspired games, I would definitely recommend Cloudpunk. It is a nice storyline driven game, it has some amazing graphics and some really good character development. Peaky Blinders is not really a video game that you'd expect would exist, and it actually works pretty well. It's a really good crossover from the TV shows and plays really nicely on a Nintendo Switch. Telltale games are ideally suited to the Nintendo Switch. Essentially they are interactive movies, and this one, New Tales from the Borderlands, also has the download for the original Tales from the Borderlands game. It is an extra download and sadly it isn't on a disc, but having both games as one package is an amazing Switch addition. Turn-based strategy games may not be a genre of games which are synonymous with the Switch, but they actually work really well on the Switch. Games like Narcos, Rise of the Cartels, Wasteland 2, which if you enjoy Fallout, I would definitely recommend. I think Wasteland 3 is also on the Nintendo Switch. These are definitely more hardcore and a bit of a hark back to the original Fallout games, but definitely worth checking out. Empire of Sin is another absolutely fantastic turn-based strategy game, as well as Hard West. These are all games that work fantastically well on the Switch using its controllers and touchscreen. Nintendo Switch is also fantastic for bringing back games that we haven't seen from years from previous consoles, remastering and re-releasing them, such as these two Abe's Odyssey games. So we have Oddworld Munch's Odyssey and Oddworld Stranger's Wrath HD. These are two games that were originally on the original Xbox. It's quite surprising to see these remastered on the Nintendo Switch, but it's really good to be able to revisit these games and play them both plugged into the TV and on the go. Speaking of the original Xbox, one of my very favourite games from that OG Xbox from a little known studio called Bungie was this game, Stubbs the Zombie Rebel Without a Pulse. This game was an absolutely amazing game, and as a collector, this game was quite expensive to pick up for the OG Xbox, and it was the only way you could play this game from the same people who bought you Halo. But recently this game was re-released and remastered across all modern consoles, but I for one wanted to pick it up on Nintendo Switch. Other than video games, one of my favourite things in the world is Star Wars, so I had to pick up the Star Wars Jedi Knight collection for the Nintendo Switch. These were games that were released once again on the OG Xbox and the PC absolutely years ago. Until recently, when they re-released this remaster, the only way to get these games on physical disc for the newer consoles was through limited run. But they re-released this on both the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. But speaking of limited run, I have a lot of limited run games for the Switch. If you didn't know by now, I absolutely love limited run games. As you can see here, I have a literal stack of Switch releases from the company. And the thing is, if they release on multiple consoles, I will nearly always go for the Nintendo Switch version, just because I like having the versatility. But here's the thing, as you can see, this is a massive subset of my Nintendo Switch collection. So, in the near future, I'm going to be doing a whole video about all of my limited run games, including games for the PlayStation 4, the Xbox, and even the PlayStation 5. Here's the thing with limited run games. Most of these games I pre-ordered at the time they were released, because if you did not know, limited run games only release games for a set release window. After that, they are gone forever. And in the case of a lot of these games, this is the only way to get this on a physical cartridge or disc. So once these games are sold out, some of these, especially some in this very pile, become very, very expensive. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and in the future I will be doing my entire limited run collection. Of course, Limited Run Games not the only company that release limited releases for the Nintendo Switch. We also have super rare games. I only have a couple of their games, the first of which being Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. This, for me, is one of the greatest co-op games of all time, and I definitely wanted to add a physical edition of this into my collection. The thing is though, the limited run games come with trading cards, these super rare games come with some other little bonus bits as well. So you can see here, we have this copy of Lonely Mountains Downhill. And with this one, it comes with trading cards and also with some stickers in the back. This is the most annoying thing though about super rare games. Just look at this package. I for one like to play my games, but it's very, very tempting to keep these ones sealed in the packets. We're near the end of the collection. These are just some games that I couldn't really categorise into any other genre while going through this list. First off, we have Close to the Sun. This is kind of an action mystery game, kind of similar to Bioshock, so if you kind of enjoy that kind of noir kind of style, you might want to check this one out. Next up we have a game which I think everyone should play, Road 96. This is like a story-based game with a difference. Essentially, you play through the story of multiple different characters who kind of interact with the same characters but in different times. It's a really hard game to describe, but I definitely recommend just trying this one out and playing it. I definitely can't do it justice, and it's definitely worth checking out. This is a kind of game I wasn't really expecting to play on the Switch, Surviving the Aftermath. Once again, this was like an Amazon special. I think this was about £10. It's essentially a bit like Fallout if it was a strategy game where you're kind of SimCity-esque survival. It looks super cool. I haven't had a chance to fully jump into this one yet, but I'm a big fan of post-apocalyptic games. This one looks really cool. Finally, as I said earlier in the video, I'm a big fan of Telltale games, and this game, Black Sad, looks really, really cool and also has a lenticular cover. There's not many collector's editions on the Switch, so I definitely want to pick this one up because it looks super cool. I do not have many Switch collector's editions in my collection, but it's definitely quality over quantity. Look at this Metroid Dread collector's edition. This thing is an absolute thing of beauty. If you want to see what this thing looks like unboxed, I'll leave a link in the description below, as I did a full unboxing of this and the other of my absolutely amazing Switch collector's editions. I also have this collector's edition, the Bayonetta 3 Trinity Masquerade Edition. Again, I'll leave in the description below a link so you can watch me unboxing this one, as again, it's a thing of absolute beauty. This leads me on to one of my holy grails for the Nintendo Switch. They have done a box set which includes the original Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2, but that thing is super pricey. But for me, that is my absolute holy grail item for the Nintendo Switch. But not all special editions are expensive. This is Hero Land. This comes with a couple of cool bits in the box. I still got this one sealed, so I think I picked it up once again off an Amazon offer for about £10. But if I see something that has a couple of cool little add-ons like this, I'm going to add it to the collection. This was a game which I wanted to pick up because I just wanted to get the special edition. This is the LEGO Star Wars Skywalker Saga Pack, but it is a copy that comes with Luke with blue milk. So this one has a LEGO figure inside, and this just shows how crazy some of these games get. But at the time, this one was going for a lot of money just because people wanted the minifigure. I think more surprisingly, this is the only LEGO game I actually own on a Nintendo Switch. If you're watching the channel for a while, you'll know I'm a massive wrestling fan and I love collecting my wrestling games. But sadly, this is the only wrestling game I own on a Nintendo Switch, WWE Battlegrounds. And this is a real shame, but there is a good reason this is the only wrestling game I own on a Nintendo Switch. They have released some of the WWE 2K games on the Switch, but the thing is, they are so poorly optimized. They are glitchy, they have bad graphics, and they play badly. It is a real shame when a big developer like 2K doesn't take the time to port a game over to the Nintendo Switch. It'd be amazing to have more high quality wrestling games on the Switch. Until then, we have this one which is a bit subpar in WWE Battlegrounds. We're on to the final games in my Switch collection. I had to save possibly my favourite games on a Nintendo Switch till last. They are of course the Pokemon games. Pretty much the main reason I bought a Nintendo Switch is because me and my wife just love playing Pokemon games together. And the best thing is about buying Pokemon games, as a partnership you can buy both games, so we can literally catch them all. So here we have Pokemon Sword and Shield. These were the first Pokemon games I bought on a Nintendo Switch, but trust me, these are just the tip of the iceberg. I was a massive fan of Pokemon Go for quite a long while, so I definitely had to pick up Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. It may be a bit too much of a simplified Pokemon game for my liking, but I like the fact it was kind of a fully fledged Pokemon game, but it had the feel of Pokemon Go. And at the end of the day, I've got Pokemon Let's Go Eevee first, but don't worry, I'll definitely be getting Let's Go Pikachu, as I definitely want to catch them all. If you get very, very lucky, you can go into the supermarket and pick up clearance video games. And my wife managed to pick up Pokemon Snap for the Nintendo Switch on a clearance deal. When these games get to the end of life in supermarkets, they will reduce these so cheap. I have seen games reduced down to 99p in supermarkets, but trust me, this is a 1 in a million chance of finding. This one was reduced down to about £30, but this was mere weeks after this game was released. I'm yet to play this one, but I was a massive fan of Pokemon Snap on the N64 and definitely looking forward to checking this one out. For me personally, my personal favourite Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch is Pokemon Legends Arceus. I think this is by far the best Pokemon game they have ever released. It just took that Pokemon formula and just improved upon it so much. It is a game that I enjoy so much. We have 2 copies of it, one for me and one for my wife, because Pokemon is so much better when you play with friends, or even better, your wife. If you're a game collector like myself, you will know that Nintendo games very rarely lose their value, but some Nintendo games become very, very desirable over time, and the best way to avoid paying a premium for these games down the line is to pre-order them, and that's exactly what I did with this box set for Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, and this thing is an absolute beauty. It comes with a copy of both of the games as well as a steelbook. Now, I wish I'd known about these box sets years ago, as the one for Pokemon Sword and Shield is incredibly expensive now. And trust me, when they release these Pokemon double packs, I'll be picking them up for 2 reasons. Firstly, they are highly collectible and going to be worth a lot of money and I want them in the collection now. Secondly, it's a fun way for me to get both copies of the game. Following on from that logic, here we have Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the double set. At the end of the day, I don't think it's worked out much more expensive buying them this way, but for me, it just made perfect sense. I could get both games from that kind of installment of the series, so I could play one and my wife could play one. At the end of the day, Pokemon games are designed to play with friends, and if you have to be able to catch them all, you need multiple copies of the game. And what better way to do that than with these box sets? Before we end the video, I just want to say how much I love these steelbooks for the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo seems to do these. When you pre-order a game, you get one of these absolutely beautiful steelbooks, and this is such a fan service. I just love these. They look super cool, and they do them for all the biggest Nintendo games. I only have a couple in the collection so far, but I reckon in the next few years I'm definitely be adding more. There we have it then, folks. That's my complete Nintendo Switch collection. nearly 100 games which I've collected over just 2 years of collecting. And who knows where this collection will be in the next 2 years. There's still so many games I want to add to the collection. And there's so many first-party Nintendo games I still need for the collection. So please, comment down below what games you think are missing from this collection. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please comment below your Switch collection, how big it is, how long you've been collecting. Hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See you all soon.